Hey guys, what's up? Shadowlands back from another video. I want to first, before I even get into today's topic, and sincerely apologize for not getting a video out sooner this week. I really intended to. In fact, I really wanted to get this topic out earlier this week, but I had crazy midterms and life has just been insane recently, so I really apologize for that. But I do have this video and one more video coming out very soon that I have planned, so that will be coming out as well. Anyway, today I wanted to talk about why am I still playing Destiny? Doesn't Destiny suck? Doesn't Destiny have terrible reviews? Wasn't Destiny the 7 of 10 game of 2014 and 15? Wasn't it just not that great? Well, today I wanted to go over reasons why I really love the game. So, first of all, you gotta know that, at least as a person, I really love RPGs. And Destiny fits that very well. Very similar to Fallout or Skyrim, you have these very big open world RPGs where you have to worry about things more than just how well you can shoot your gun. You have to worry about what gun you're using, how powerful it is, a bunch of stuff that goes into it, and things that make your character unique, whether it's what you're wearing as clothing, or how you perform, what weapons you choose to use, or what builds you have. You have builds, just like in another RPG like League of Legends or some other RPG like Pokemon. You have builds for your team and for your character, and I really love that. And the fact that you can combine that with a shooter is really amazing. The only game I had ever really seen that in before was Fallout. And Fallout, everyone knows there's a million ways to play it. It's like there's a million ways to play Skyrim, and there's a million ways to play GTA. But there's a lot of things about Destiny that really draw my attention. For one, I think the PvP is very well designed. Now, I'm not saying it's balanced. There have been balance problems in Destiny's PvP for as long as you can remember. Ever since the game came out, I don't think we've ever had a very stable meta. And the most stable meta we've ever had is right now. Right now, there's only one or two weapons that are really overpowered, and that's about the best it's ever been. But the best part about that is you can use whatever weapons you want. If you go into PvP right now, you'll see tons of different weapons being used outside of the one or two ones that are just completely overpowered. About half of the people will use those, but then everything else that's being used is completely random and all over the board. And it leads for some really interesting builds, and you have a different fight every time you go into PvP. And I think that's really awesome, and especially now that they've recently fixed their matchmaking in a patch that came out about, I want to say about a week ago or so. I've really been happy with what that patch did. Previously, what the patch was, how they match-made with PvP, you couldn't pick your own maps, you couldn't pick your own stuff, and while you still can't do that, you couldn't pick your own teammates either. And that's kind of bad, because what it did was it would take your skill-based PvP and it would not look at connection whatsoever. And now we've seen a lot of other games try to do that, whether it was Battlefield or Call of Duty. A lot of competitive games have tried doing, okay, let's only focus on making sure that the KDRs on this team are equivalent to the KDRs on this team, and making the skill-based matchmaking the highest priority. What that jeopardized, though, is the connection. You'd be pulling people from countries across the planet from each other, and you'd have one person teleporting all over the place on one person's screen and have a totally fine connection on another's. And it really ruined PvP and the meta of the game. It made it very hard to play a fair game, and it made it very easy for people to go ahead and lag other people out in competitive modes and get free wins, which was really not very fun or fair. However, what they have done to it is they have gone through and made sure that it's now based more on connection than on skill. I don't believe they've completely removed the skill aspect, because the type of games we're seeing is that on a 6-man team, you'll see 2 to 3 really skilled players with KDRs that are clearly above the 1.5 to 2.0 range, and then everyone else on the team will be relatively average. They might be around 1.0 or maybe a little bit lower. And that way the teams at least appear balanced. But then it usually becomes, and this is the biggest gripe I have with PvP right now, is that you have it's basically 3 players versus 3 players. Even though you have 6-person teams, it comes down to whether 2 or 3 players on one team can beat the 2 or 3 players on the other team, with a bunch of other collateral people in the way that can't really help as much as the main 2 or 3 people on the team. And I think that's the biggest issue that you need to try to tackle right now. I've made videos about that before, and I've talked about it before with other games, and how Combat Arms, for one, does a lot of their clan matchmaking, and how it's not very well balanced. In fact, it's entirely player moderated, which can lead to a lot of interesting issues where you have 1 or 2 people carrying an entire team. And you'll see clan wars where you'll have like 1 or 2 people on one clan team fighting 1 or 2 people on the other clan team, and everyone else in the clan match is just basically collateral. They're not really there to do anything. They serve no purpose. Now, that's basically my biggest gripe with PvP right now, but overall, I'm very much enjoying it. And the dynamics of the PvP, the map design, and a lot of stuff like that, I'm very pleased with. The map design, the way that the weapons balance out, the way you can use even lower tier weapons because they're brought up to be on par with higher level ones. Although they suffer the ability to not have as many perks, they may still perform well just due to sheer stats being very preferable to some other legendary or some higher tier weapon. Now, PvE. This has been kind of a disappointment because I really love PvE. I love playing raids. My number one gripe, and there are two arguments for this, is that they have not brought old content forward. They haven't. They've brought a few strikes forward and simply made enemies higher level in the things called strikes, which is a team thing you do where you get 3 people to work together to go through a mission. And that's fantastic and all, because those are really fun, and it's really cool that they put in a bunch of strike-specific rewards. Like, you can only get this cloak from this strike, or you can only get this machine gun from beating this boss. And it's really, really cool. I think that's really brilliant. I hope they put a lot more in and bring more strikes forward. But what they have not brought forward is the raids. Now, there could be any number of reasons why they've chosen not to do this. Either the gear that was part of the raid rewards is now going to be unbalanced in the new meta, or it's going to break PvE now, or a lot of other things that could go wrong. I know one thing that came to mind is that the Taken, the new enemy that's usually the highest level in the game, you usually find Taken enemies at higher level than other enemies now, they have enemies that have all types of shields, Arc, Solar, and Void. And if you have primary weapons that can take care of those shields more easily, that becomes an issue. Where if you look at the Vex, it's really just the Minotaurs that have shields. They just have the Void shields unless you're doing a Nightfall thing, where the Harpies will have Arc shields as well, and so on. So by default, most races only have 1 shield, and if there's a Nightfall, they have 2, and that's about it. But what we're seeing with the Taken King is that all of the shields are encompassed with the highest level enemies. And if we're given weapons that are easy to take care of those, it kind of makes it a little bit easier to deal with a lot of the stuff in the raid and in higher level areas. And I think that may be one small factor. There's a couple of other ones, like how would we rebalance the raid to be doable with the weapons that are in the game's meta for PvE right now? Like right now, there's a sniper rifle called the 1,000-yard stare that is basically mandatory in every single person's arsenal. You've got to have a 1,000-yard stare, or a 1K, whatever you want to call it. The Black Spindle is another one. Black Spindle makes the newest raid a million times easier just because of the sheer damage output. The Touch of Malice. You basically want to have at least 3 to 4, if not more, Touch of Malices to do the final 2 raid bosses, and that's kind of important. So the question is, how would those things also come up to be fair with what's the current meta? The final argument against that would primarily be that if people are playing the old raids, would it be worth Bungie's time, the company that makes the game, to bring forward those old raids and expect people to play them for a couple of months and then have them go back to being pointless again because we've gotten all the gear out of them and there's no reason to play them anymore? Because right now, the reason to play Taken King is it's the place you get the highest level gear. I heard this very interesting idea from another YouTuber recently that the way you could balance that is say that you have to play the newest raid to get the highest level gear, but let's say the highest level sniper rifle you have, the highest level you can be is 320, but let's say your highest level sniper rifle is 317. So you play an old raid, but then let's say that the highest light level sniper rifle you can get from an old raid is, say, 317. You can't surpass that, and the only way you can get a higher light level one to drop is to go into the newest raid first and get a higher light level one there, and then come back and try to get a higher light level to drop in the lower raid. So that'd be an interesting way to drop it, so that you're still forced to play the newer raid in order to get better gear in terms of light level. But then if you went back to the old raids, you could still get the old gear. That was at least an interesting way to balance the numbers out. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of other factors that go into it, but it's still one of my biggest gripes that we've had a lot of old content, not just raids, strikes, story missions, a lot of stuff like that, even old PvP maps that have not been brought forward. And now I'm sure there's a million reasons that Bungie may not want to do this, but quite frankly, I'd like to hear at least a few of them from themselves, and they've been quite quiet recently. They've told us almost nothing that's going on. We know about a small event that's going to happen around Valentine's Day, and that's it for the time being. That being said, I'm still personally really enjoying Destiny, although at this point I have almost all of the strike-specific rewards. I have all the best ones for sure. I'm missing a few ones that aren't quite as important, but that means I don't really have the incentive to go get them. I have all of the raid weapons already. I've basically collected everything in the game that there is to collect. My characters, I can't speak words right now, are all totally maxed out, max level. They have all the basic sets of gear. I have full set of Iron Banner gear and full set of Trials of Osiris gear on all 3 of my characters. I have no reason to hunt after any more gear or hunt after anything else. I have everything. And that being said, I've had everything for the past month and a half. Nothing new has been introduced into the game, and therefore we've had nothing new to collect and go after. It's been pretty dull the past month and a half, and it doesn't sound like we're going to have any massive update coming around the corner. If anything, what's going to happen is maybe a month or so, sometime within the next month, February here, Bungie will say, okay, we have something coming out 3 months from now. But that means we have to sit around for 3 more months waiting for something to happen where we have nothing in between. So that's more likely what's going to happen. It's very unlikely Bungie will just come out of the blue and say, hey, next week we have a massive DLC, come pay us $15 for it. That's very unlikely to happen, and quite frankly, I wouldn't want it to happen. I just want them to produce some kind of content that we can see ahead of time that can at least bring the hype back to Destiny. That's why I keep playing Destiny right now, though, is because it's just a fun game at its core. The storyline was definitely butchered. I can say that. The storyline was butchered, but the meta of PvP is finally becoming a little more stable than it has been. I'm very pleased about that, because PvP is my personal favorite thing. I love PvE, don't get me wrong, but with the limited amount of content you have there, it's becoming very monotonous. But with PvP, on the other hand, with the massive meta going around now where there is no real meta other than 1 or 2 weapons, which aren't even that widely used because they're not a very, popular type of weapon to use, it just kind of makes it so that, okay, we can use whatever we want in PvP now, and that's actually really fun and exciting. You can mix up tons of different kinds of teams with different strategies, different weapons, and it's a different experience every time you go into the game, and that's why I've been loving PvP recently, especially since they fixed the connection patch, which was basically my biggest issue with the game up until that point. That, and the fact that there was no real good meta. The meta was basically based around like a set of 6 to 7 weapons that if you didn't use one of these 6 to 7 weapons, you were just doing it wrong. And the way I see it is there really should be no doing it wrong for casual PvP, which is what I really love. Sweats is another thing, but I don't participate in those a lot unless I'm with my clan. That's all I really wanted to go over today, guys, as far as why I'm still playing Destiny, because I know a lot of you guys have been asking me, like, why do you keep playing this game? I thought this game was really shitty and a bunch of stuff like that. Why would I ever want to pay bucks for Destiny? And I just worked and mowed the lawn. I don't want to spend my lawn mowing money on Destiny and a whole bunch of shit like that. So that's what I've been going through, and I've really been enjoying the game. I probably will continue to enjoy the game, and I will continue to post content for it, at least until Overwatch comes out. Once Overwatch comes out, we will reevaluate that game and see if it deserves a bigger spot on my channel than Destiny does, and I will give the same opportunity to the Division once it comes out and I have a chance to play it. That being said, guys, thank you for watching. Please rate, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Check back in the next 2 to 3 days for another one. I will see you guys then. Shadowlance out.